Welcome to Indiana News Desk. I'm Joe Wren. When current Governor Mike Pence was chosen to be Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump's running mate, his Lieutenant Governor Eric Holcomb stepped into the race. For the Democrats, John Gregg is vying for the job after a narrow loss in 2012. State House reporter Brandon Smith recently talked to both candidates. Nice to have you out of the State House and here on set, and you had a chance to talk with them.
I do. It's great to be here, Joe. Thanks. Eric Holcomb only became the GOP's nominee for governor about halfway through the normal campaign cycle, and as a result, we've only recently started to see him develop and release his policy proposals. And even as you'll see here, he's still often short on specifics, as in his answer to a specific question about how he'd pay for road improvements.
We came out of the last session and we said we're going to, as a committee, the first committee, as you allude to, we're going to collect real information, real data, and this decision is going to be data-driven. We all agree that we want a long-term, sustainable infrastructure program. We all agreed that we would keep everything on the table. And so I'll continue to, and I'm anxious about the product that comes out in December from the first committee. And I have remained one that has said, I'll honor my commitment. We'll keep everything on the table and we'll inventory where we're at, what our needs are, how much it will cost to address those needs, and how much we can afford. And then we'll figure out the way to actually pay for it. But what I'm not for is simply reverting back to those old days where we far outkick our coverage, where we're just borrowing away the future and leaving it for someone else to pay, where we're actually paving roads for 20 years, but we're paying for them for 30.
Shifting to education, the state's voucher program continues to expand. There is no cap on it. Where would you like to see it go?
I don't think that that options necessarily have to compete with one another. I think that they can complement one another, and I want to continue to strive to try to meet that demand and not sacrifice. I want to strive to have the best public school education system in America.
Yet a lot of people feel like the continued growth of vouchers takes away from the goal of improving public schools.
I just don't see it that way.
There's only so much money in a pot at the end of the day.
And we're all seeking to educate children, right? And we're all seeking to best educate our children. And if a parent believes, for whatever reason, that there is an option that's better for them, why shouldn't they have that option? If it's all money going toward education and educating a child, why shouldn't there be that option?
And on pre-K, obviously John Gregg has called for universal pre-K. You so far have said, let's just expand the existing pilot program. What does that expansion look like for you?
As we start, we'll see the chamber. We'll submit a study and a report, I should say, on how this pilot program is working. And I think that data will be incredibly valuable as we continue to expand. I'm all in for pre-K. And what does that mean, and where do we start, and how do we responsibly, certainly by saying it's universal and by lowballing the cost of it, doesn't get us there. We need to make sure that we're taking care of the folks that voluntarily want to put their children in pre-K, and start with the folks who can't afford it otherwise.
If a bill comes to your desk as governor, that's the 4 words and a comma, the simply adding sexual orientation and gender identity to the state civil rights code, would you sign it?
You're giving me a hypothetical, and you're saying if, and nothing that I've seen over the last year, in fact the last month, leads me to believe at this time that that will in fact happen, ever since this debate started. And I'm happy that for the most part the state has moved on and forward, and when it has come up the few times that it has, and I've said this before, it's almost out of exhaustion. Like, are we having this conversation again? So if it gains steam and seems to progress, we'll monitor it, and that's what I've told anyone that's ever asked me about it.